everybody, this is section 3.2, Introduction to Circles from our Hawkes Learning College Algebra textbook. All right, so the first thing we're going to talk about is the standard form of a circle. And this is going to relate to the equation of a circle, and a circle that can be found on your coordinate plane. So if I were to draw a coordinate plane, again, sorry, it's not very straight. All right, and then I were to graph a circle on that coordinate plane. All right, pretend like that is a perfect, beautiful circle. Then with every circle, you have a center to the circle. And then from the center to the side, any point on the circle, that is considered your radius. In your standard form of your equation, your radius is r, and the center, the coordinates of the center are always hk. So the standard form for an equation of a circle is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals the radius squared. And again, you can describe a circle just by knowing the radius and the center's circle, or the circle's center. And then when you solve your equation and you find x and y, the goal is that for every solution, xy solution of your equation, it's going to correspond to a point on that circle. Because you know, the circle, the circumference of the circle, it's made up of millions of points that are on that circle. All right, so now what we are going to do is we are going to find the equation of the circle, and they have told us that we have a radius of 3 and a center of -2, 7. So just as a reminder, your standard form for the equation of a circle is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared, and that is equal to the radius squared. So when I go to write the information that I have into an equation for a circle in the standard form, my center is -2, 7. And remember, the first part of the center is always your h value, and the second part is always the k. Now, one thing we have to note here is when we look at this formula, it's x minus h, or x and then the opposite of h. So if I were to plug this in, I would have x minus my -2 squared. But if you have those two negatives there, we know that really minus a -2 is the same as x plus 2 squared. And then when we look at y, it's going to be y minus 7 squared. So we'll just rewrite that down there. So the important thing to note is because you have a minus on the h and the k, it's really standing for the opposite of whatever's in that center. So when you go to write it in, if it's a -2, when you put it into your equation, because those two double negatives make a positive, you'll have x plus 2. And here, since it was a +7, when we put it into the equation, it made it a -7. And then it is equal to r squared. Our radius is 3. Right now we know that r equals 3, but we need to square that. So 3 squared would be 9. So that would be the standard form for the equation of a circle that has a radius of 3 and a center of -2, 7. All right, next we are going to find the standard form of an equation, but this time they didn't give me the radius and the center. They gave me the endpoints of the diameter. And just if you recall, when you have a circle, okay, the radius goes from the center to a side, but the diameter goes from the center, or it goes from one side through the center all the way to the other side. So the diameter goes all the way across. And what they gave us is they gave us the two endpoints of that diameter. So I need to know the radius. Well, if you think about the radius and how it compares to the diameter, we know the radius is half of the diameter. So really what I have is I have one radius here, and then I have another one here. So this center of a circle, when they give you the endpoints of the diameter, we really need the midpoint of that diameter because that will be the center of our circle. So we need to know what our center of our circle is. So I'm going to use that midpoint formula to find the center of our circle. So remember, for your midpoint, you're going to take the two x values, so -4 plus 2 divided by 2. And then you're going to take the two y values, so -1 plus 5 divided by 2. And let's see here, -4 plus 2 will give me -2 divided by 2. And -1 plus 5 would give me 4 divided by 2. So that is going to mean my midpoint is going to be -1, 2, or not just my midpoint, but that is going to be also the center of my circle. So that is going to be my HK right there. So now we have part of what we need to write our formula for our circle. But now we need to know the radius. So what we're going to do here is there's a couple ways you can do it. You could plug in the center and one of the points into your standard form equation. Or we could use the distance formula for the center and one of the points. So let's start by first, I'm going to do my standard form. Remember, standard form is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared. It's going to equal the radius squared. So what I can do is I can pick, and I'm going to pick the one with positive values, makes it a little easier. Remember, that's a diameter. That point is xy. So I'm going to do 2 minus, and then my center is hk. It was a -1. Remember, we need the opposite. So it's minus that -1 squared plus y, which instead of y, we are going to plug in 5, our value 5. And then it's a positive 2, so we'll do -2 squared. And that's going to equal our radius squared. 2 minus a -1, remember you make it plus a positive. So you end up with 3 squared plus 5 minus 2 is 3 squared. And that's going to equal r squared. So 3 squared is 9 plus 3 squared is 9. 9 plus 9 will equal 18. And that is our r squared, or our radius squared. Now, if you were to solve it using the distance formula, you would use the center and one of your 2 points, and you would get r, which would be the square root of 18. Now, you need r squared, so you just square and you get your 18. Either way is okay. Now what we need to do is just write our standard form. So we're going to write it in this form, leaving just x and y. So our standard form of our equation is going to be x plus 1, because remember it's minus a negative, squared, plus y minus 2 squared equals 18. And this would be our standard form of the equation when we are given the diameter, and that's how we would find our standard form. All right, so now they are asking us to sketch the graph of a circle defined by x minus 2 squared plus y plus 3 squared equals 4. So here, they've given us the circle in standard form, the equation, and we need to sketch it. Now again, you've seen my sketching skills. They are not fabulous. We are going to sketch it in total name, like it just totally look like a sketch. But what we do need to sketch it, and what I do want you to be able to tell me when you sketch it, is what are the coordinates for the center and what is the length of the radius. So if you had graph paper, this would look a little bit drawn out better than it will be on my screen right now. So I'm going to draw a coordinate plane here. All right. And remember, this is h. We need h and k. This is the opposite of h and the opposite of k. And this is r squared. So if I want to write the center of my circle, my center. All right, if it's -2 on the formula, which is the opposite of h, that means my h is +2. And if it's +3 here, remember, take the opposite, so it's going to be -3. So if I were to go graph the center of the circle, it's 2, -3. So out 2, then down 1, 2, 3. So my center will be right around in here. And then the radius, if r squared equals 4, and we want r, remember, you got to take the square root of both sides. So that means the radius of my circle is 2. So that means if I go from the center out 2 places, like right here, I can go out 2 more spaces like right here. And again, I'm just sketching this, but my radius is 2. So I can sketch my circle if I know the center and the radius. All right, and again, not a fabulous circle, but hopefully you guys aren't drawing on a computer screen. It looks a little bit better. But to sketch the graph, you need to know the center and you need to know the radius. All right, so now what we are going to do is we are going to write the equation of this circle in standard form. And when you are presented with something like this, we need to have, x plus h, or x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals the radius squared. Right now I have x squared plus y squared plus 8x minus 2y equals -1. So to do this, if you were presented with an equation like this, in order to solve this and write your equation in standard form, what you're going to do is you need to complete the square for both x squared and y squared. So the very first thing that I'm going to do is just rewrite my equation to put the x's and the y's together. So I'm going to write x squared plus 8x, and then because I am going to complete the square and my -1 is my c term, it's already over, I'm going to put my plus right there. Plus, we're going to have y squared minus 2y, and then again, I'm completing the square for both, so I have to add something to both, not a 1, but that's going to be a blank spot right there. And then it's going to be equal to -1 plus something for the x and something for the y. All right, remember, when you complete the square, you take b. So in this case, our b is 8. You do half of b, your b divided by 2 squared. So if I do 8 divided by 2 squared, that's going to give me 4. 4 squared is 16. So if I add it on that side, I'm going to add it on that side. And then here I have -2. If I divide it by 2 for the y's and square it, it gives me -1. But if I square it, it gives me a +1. All right, now, remember, now what we can do is I can factor this. So x squared plus 8x plus 16 will really factor to x plus 4 times x plus 4, or x plus 4 squared, which is exactly what we want, plus y minus 2y plus 1 will factor to y minus 1 times y minus 1 squared. And then it's going to equal, if we add -1 plus 1 will cancel out, so it equals 16. And now that is our equation in standard form. We don't have to do anything else. R squared is 16. So that means that the radius would be the square root of 16, or 4, if we wanted to find the actual radius. The center of the circle is going to be -4, +1, because remember, you do the opposites. So h would be -4, k would be +1. So, if we wanted to write it out, the center would be -4, +1, that's HK. And then R is 4 if we needed it. So our center is -4, 1, and our radius would be 4. They just asked for the standard form, so really this is all you need. That's all for circles. I am going to try to post just some other videos from YouTube to help you out with circles a little bit. I do think it's kind of fun, and it's a little break from graphing lines and looking at equations, linear equations to solve.